Mr. V's class is currently tuned in, hanging out, watching Desert Bus. That means it's time for Tech Talk. We're going to show you a little bit of behind the scenes of how we run things here at Desert Bus from a technological perspective. So maybe start with a little bit of a background on who I am and how I got started with Desert Bus.
Actually,
So,
Ashton, can you go one step further back than that too? Why are we doing Tech Talk?
why are we doing Tech Talk?
Yeah.
Because Andre, or Mr. V, is a volunteer for many years. He asked that we give a little demo of our systems to his introductory to programming class. But we also figured it'd be really nice for everybody to see a little bit of behind the scenes, a little bit of how we've handled tech this year. So this year and last year, obviously, we can be in person. Well, this year we're half in person, but a lot of the systems are still in place from last year where we were 100% remote. And it is a technological feat under a short period of time. So a lot of the broadcast tech, which Cory will be taking you through later, is very. We built a lot of it, and by we I mean Desert Bus as a whole. The broadcast team built a lot of the broadcast specific stuff this year. I am mostly on the web technology side, but that's how I got started with Desert Bus. Is Desert Bus 2 and 3. I saw all of my friends having a terrible time having to do all of the administration work by hand in a spreadsheet, using a lot of copy paste and a lot of manual effort and time. And every time anybody had to draw a prize winner, right now we just hit a button. Before, it was a lot of copying and randomly drawing people from a spreadsheet. And every time anybody had to go and collate all of that information, you could just you would see their face on camera drop and go, oh, right, I've got an hour of work ahead of me.
I remember being like, okay, this thing is, this draw is ready. Okay. And then Matt would go away for 10 minutes while trying to download, because we had to download all the things from PayPal to then try
individual transactions and
then collate it into a spreadsheet.
It was a giant pain in the butt. So the next year I came on and tried to automate as many things as possible, give them an interface that they could build or use to automate a lot of that stuff. And that's really where technology and programming for me is super cool, is that I can automate away a lot of the frustrating, annoying, difficult to use things and give people the opportunity to just do what they love to do. If I won the lottery tomorrow, that's basically all I would do with my life, is go into my friends' lives, figure out what they're doing that makes their lives hard, and see how I can automate it away with technology so that they're just doing the things that they love the most. And that's kind of how all of this Desert Bus tech got started. So let me flip over to my screen here.
Here we see a metaphor for automation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had that background for 20 years. This is what we see. This is you on the right, chat. This is at the bottom left. We've got our video over here. This is what we're seeing. These are our controls to be able to mute ourselves, deafen ourselves, similar to Discord, that kind of stuff. And then to drive the bus, which is great. So that's when we drive the bus, it'll pop up a new window with an emulator that we can run the bus ourselves, and that's what Paul is doing currently. He's driving the bus. So there's just to be able to build this interface and have these low latency preview stuff. I'll let Cory go into that a little more if he wants to talk about it. But this is there. That's the ISO chat at the bottom over there. Cory talking to us directly, so we can communicate with our fellow broadcasters, or communicate silently with the broadcast team.
Yeah, actually, he's in chat right now. Big thanks to Glodnox, who actually is he is the one who we're using the Twitch chat system that they built, which because originally I made a Twitch chat thing that was based on reformatting the regular.
Wait, is this
Twitch
not
chat.
your nifty thing anymore?
No, my nifty Twitch chat broke several times over because Twitch kept changing their overlay or kept changing their
right, yeah.
chat thing, and then I'd have to change it to fix it, and then people would do it again, and then I have to change it to fix it, and eventually it got to the point where I couldn't, I didn't have time to fix it and stuff, and Glodnox built a new chat system that was formatted in the way that I liked it, but also using a different API that isn't actually dependent on the particular layout of the Twitch chat.
Cool. So in the backend system here, we've got our challenges, so we can see everything you've sent into us to challenge. So on the left over here, we've got all of our pending challenges. We've got some promoted ones up here for things to do, and a whole system for people to check it out, whether to either straight up reject it, which we don't do very often.
I found out I was the only person who actually rejects. Most people just ghost challengers, but if I don't like it, I send it back, which apparently is rude of me. Why have the button if we don't use it?
It's not rude at all. It's good to know, like, if you're suggesting something, if either somebody is not available or not able to do something like that, or if it's just something we want to do on stream. It's good information to have. So our giveaway section here, this is our interface for handling giveaways. So we've got some the art challenge we're currently running over here. We can set up the start and end dates and the amount, and all the users have to do in here is come in here and roll for winners. And or if it's an art challenge, obviously we don't roll for a winner. We select those manually, so they can just do that here. But this is another thing. We've just built a super easy interface for everybody to use, so that it's easy for everybody. And that's basically the gist of all the tech here is make it as easy to use for the entertainers, so they don't have to think about it at all. So you can see some of our upcoming prizes over here that we'll be auctioning off a little later. Those are all listed on the website, obviously. And in prizes, you can see a list of all of our prizes. I'm going to pull up a test one here, so I'm not revealing too much information. Here you go, test silent auction.
Now, you know what's funny here, Ashton, is as an entertainer, I only have 4 columns on the left. I only have profile, challenges, giveaway, and polls.
That's because in this permission section,
I wanted to set you up for that.
Yeah. That's another nice flow, is we can give people access to only the sections they need to worry about, so that if they see something else on the left, they go, "Oh, what's that?" They don't need to worry about it at all.
Ashton has wisely locked most of us entertainers out of the things that we could really break and cause problems. Yeah,
it's also like privacy issues as well. We only give people who need access to donations or shipping information or anything like that. We restrict those to those specific teams that need it to be able to function. So that's something when you get into the larger space is privacy and security. You always have to think about what your users might want revealed, what they might not want revealed. So like restricting that to the smallest subset of users as possible is always a good idea. So like most people don't have access to the donations or the donor account information, or even the prizes in a lot of the cases, because in the prizes we include shipping addresses and then that gets sent straight to PMC to be able to ship our prizes away. So not everybody needs to have access to that, so we just limit that to the regular people. I'm not going to go into the donations or donor account sections for obvious reasons. But in this this prizes section, we can see we can set it to silent, or a lot of our well, like all of the silent auction stuff is automated. Where you'll get the ID of the donor and the amount they donated, and any other relevant donation information in here. And when they actually make the donation, it'll come through here as well, and that correlates with the actual donation that was made. So we can make sure everything is like the donation actually came through, it's marked as completed, all that kind of stuff, without anybody having to have any technical knowledge on that kind of stuff. So this is made the shipping volunteers' life a lot easier. They don't have to chase down people with emails. They don't have to do anything outside of this interface, really, unless there is something in here that isn't populated, and the scourge of no donor account that is no longer an issue as of this year. They have to do far more or far less chasing down of people, and then we can just ship. There's a shipping app that'll help us with getting address information correct, and we can ship it directly with PMC. And that will send a notification to PMC to say, hey, here's the shipping information and the person's name, and like just the information they need to slap on a shipping label, essentially. And then the rest of them is we've got things like the guests and the calls. This is directly tied into our website, so we can have somebody go in here, and usually our media people can go in here and link to either upload our press releases or link to articles that talk about us or anything like that. They can just come in here, add it in. It appears on our website. They don't have to have any web knowledge or any coding knowledge or anything. Same with our guests and our call-ins. This is all just the information that appears on the website, their bio, their pronouns, the dates and times will be here, and any other relevant information for them. So actually, if I go into prizes, is here as well. There's also
I love the columns showing the various status as it goes through its flow from being added to the system.
It's very cool to get
to sold, to confirmed, to shipped.
See everything at a glance where it is. Yeah. That's the name of the game here, right? It's make it as easy as possible for everybody to use.
Do you want to do a very quick? I have a couple questions from chat if you're curious, or do you want
absolutely
to do yeah. So not too long because this is for a very narrow portion. But what language is this built on?
I don't like talking about languages a lot of time. I'll absolutely tell you. This is all like Node and Vue.js. We render these all out to static HTML at the end, and that Java Node and the compiled source code essentially at the end gets compiled down to HTML, and that communicates with an API that has all the data. And the same thing with the website as well. It just connects to the API and has whatever needs access has access, and whatever doesn't need access doesn't have access.
And I'm assuming the entire database is on the blockchain, right?
Yeah, of course. No, it is not on the blockchain.
Oh, what?
No, we've got super basic SQL database on the back end. It's like it's just enough to store data. Nothing super exciting there.
And then the last question was, how are we handling auth?
How are we handling auth?
Authorizations.
Oh, authorization. That's this for the back end here for the permission section. There's a couple of admins. I think it might actually just be me and Chris, Fuji. And then anybody in Desert, like any of the volunteers who need access, we will give each person A, access to the interface itself, but then B, also what sections they have permission to access. So yeah, it's very granular in that respect. So we, like I said, we try to restrict access as much as possible because not everybody needs access to everything. It's just a best practice in general. But the reason I don't like to talk about languages a lot of the time is programming is, once you understand the basics, it's very similar across every language. There is no best language. There's the best language for what it is specifically that you're wanting to do. So this was initially written in PHP back in the day. It's the same argument with anything, right? Xbox versus PlayStation, or Windows versus Mac, or whatever. There's no specific best thing for everybody. It's like, what is your use case? What do you use it for the most? What is your it's all very specific, and the more you know about the various languages or the various infrastructure or how things work, it's just focus on what you want to do and make sure it's what you're using works for that. I think that was, let me just switch back to my camera here just to make sure I don't load up anything else. No, I think that was all I had from my end. I guess we can go through there's no real fancy tech on the website itself. But if you give me a second here, I'll load up our donor interface. Well, it's probably not a good idea to reveal all those emails. So I won't do that. If you want to see what our donor interface looks like, you can head to desertpress.org and create a donor account. Tabs or spaces.
Oh, don't get all right. I already made one oopsie. Let's not open another can of worms here.
I know, right? Again, highly dependent on what you're doing. Just don't mix them. Dear God, don't mix them.
Pick one.
Pick one and stick with it. Because as soon as you mix them, as you go into something like a command line and try to edit them, it's a pain in the butt. Just pick one and do it. If there are any questions from Andre's class, I would love to hear those as well. In chat. But otherwise, I'll throw it to Cory right now. We can cut back if we want to answer any of those at a later time.
That was great. Thank you, Ashton.
Hello, everybody. I got two different tools to show off. Apologize if there is an echo. I do have the stream coming through speakers to make sure the audio is still working, so that might get picked up by my mic, but I have turned it down as much as I can. So the first thing I have on screen here is the layout tools that Joe Trollo, our favorite Alpha Flight engineer, has put together. He created these last year for the all virtual run, and me and Sean are still using them for us this year. So this is a local thing that is connected to our OBS instance, and with it I can load up different looks. This is our Family Feud preview look, which you can see down here is a lot of different boxes that come together to create a game show. And this is only half the game show, because this is only pertaining to the stuff that is involving the actual entertainers and moving them around. The actual game show interface for like Family Feud is a completely different thing that Jen, aka Mango Pixel, put together. I began also last year, and yeah, so there's a lot of different custom code here, but you can see there's a list. There's the sea shanty looks for Paul, etc. So yeah, we have them all saved here, and then when I hit sync up here, it goes and pushes them over to OBS and builds all the layers, and then adds all the little white borders around everything and puts in the name tag automatically. So yeah, when we've been talking about the layout tools being unstable previously, because I've had my computer for some reason has had issues that thankfully we've ironed out now at this point, but it was this system here is what we've been talking about. If you ever heard anything about the layout tools, this is what was being referred to. And yeah, so all the names of the name tags and all that stuff, that's being handled dynamically, the driver icon, etc. So whenever, in theory, it's all nice live interactive. Sometimes the interactive stuff gets shut off for stability purposes, but yeah, that's the layout tools. This is all Joe's brainchild.
So Cory,
and
sorry, I have so many questions here.
An amazing thing. Yeah, go ahead, Serge.
So like I stream full time. That's been my gig
Yeah.
for the past 3 years, and even I look at this and my eyes go cross-eyed because I'm used to dealing with OBS directly. So for people like to go back a level, Twitch shows the stream, but you don't just install Twitch on your computer and broadcast from it. Typically, you use another piece of software, the big two being OBS and Paul, help me out. What do we use at the Moonbase?
XSplit is what we use
yeah.
for a lot of stuff. Yeah.
And then so you build stuff there and then you send it up. So what is this? Is this a web browser? Is this another piece of software? And how do they talk to each other?
Yeah, this is a browser-based system.
Yeah, this is a web browser, or it's running off of Joe's server, but connecting locally to OBS via WebSockets. And it is, unfortunately, I don't have a good way of showing you my OBS instance, but basically we have tags in all of our different broadcast layer stuff. So like, for example, like your video input surge has a tag in it that allows WebSockets to pass, it allows the layout tools to filter that tag for the tag and then find it as a layer here. So you can see your name is in the drop down. And like we have an image drop down here, there is all the different entertainers that kind of pertain to our shift. And like we have Mikey coming in, tomorrow, I think. But in the longest, Sean's right there, and Steve's on here, and yeah. So like basically, the tag's allowing that to appear there. There's stuff that I don't want to necessarily appear here, so that stuff is left untagged. But yeah, it's basically just it's a tagging sources in OBS with specific tags that Joe created, and then that allows it to be appeared here. And then I can't speak to the logic of like how, for example, you can see in the preview here, there are the 6 boxes that you normally see for our shift. If I hit this crop button, it will change that and auto crop them. So Joe has a whole specific set of logic as well running to like create these layouts.
The geometry stuff is the thing that always can always really bakes my noodle on these kind of things. These borders, if you've been watching Loading Ready Run streams for the past year or so since last Desert Bus, these borders around us might look kind of familiar because there's a large portion of there's a portion of this system that Joe Trollo built that I have adapted for Loading Ready Run streams.
Nice.
It's not the system that I have is sort of using some of the core stuff that Joe built in a slightly different way because, of course, our requirements for Loading Ready Run streams is quite a bit different from Desert Bus streams. But the main thing that helped me out a lot was just the actual like geometry calculations for like I want to fit 5 16 by 9 windows within this square. I need now, and with 10 pixel border between each of them, please generate that and make them as big as possible in like how many there should be per line and stuff.
Yeah, so the answer to a lot of the questions that we get is how do you do X? Because I've never seen anything like that. It's because we built it.
Yeah.
Joe did like so much work on the back end over here, the stuff that's Cory is showing you here. So thank him for that. He's done a lot of work that allowed us to even do a remote Desert Bus, but definitely that allowed it to like all of these layouts and everything that allowed it to run as smoothly as it did last year.
I literally thought that our engineering team had OBS open and a whole bunch of different scenes, like hard programmed scenes, and we're using it to direct the transition between them. That's the only way my brain could perceive solving this problem. This is so galaxy brain.
But they do. If you look what generates those scenes is this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can push. I have 11 different scenes that I can push these layouts to. That was one of the fixes that we came up with in terms of helping stabilize it, was pushing them to scenes that aren't currently like live in preview. But yeah, and then there's like another probably 10 to 20 scenes that are created that have nothing to do with the layout tools at all, or are feeding stuff into the layout tool. So they're like a pre-scene that the layout tool can grab a chunk of information from, etc. So yeah, there's a lot of
I also
more
want to
complexity
highlight.
that we can kind of come back to. The one other thing, because I know there was a question about UI stuff that I want to show off, is this is the tool system that is running the Pong scoreboard for this year. So when I hit the overlay button on my Stream Deck, you'll see that pop up live on stream, but you'll see it's being generated over here in this program called Malumin, which I'm curious how they define it. I would call it like it's somewhat of a media server program that's used for professional stuff. It's somewhat of a projection mapping program. It kind of is a all tools of a trade kind of software that's used in the events industry a lot. And so that's running our Pong.
They call it a complete solution to create audio-visual shows.
Yeah.
There you go.
And so Jen created the amazing animations, which are then triggering on my button press. And then on top of that, you can see there's an Apple code window up in the top corner there. So that code is running on my desktop, and basically every time I press one of the buttons in Companion, which you can see there, so as I'm adding points, that button press is actually triggering Companion to run the actual script. And then the script result is to write out to a text file, which Malumin is checking every like hundreds of times a second or whatever, basically. So I'm just overriding the whatever's in that text file. But yeah, so like right now it's running a counter. There's 2 points. Let's give Serge some points because he's always been on the right-hand side this week. And yeah, so every time I press a button in Companion, it is running an Apple script, which is effectively just a very, very simple counter program, which is outputting to a text file, which Malumin is reading and then writing on top of this custom text layer, which sits over Jen's animations, which, you know, we can then do things like the match point animation and all of that stuff on top of that. So that's a look into one aspect of like kind of UI stuff that we're playing with. I don't know, Ashton, if you want to talk about overlay, I'll leave that one to you, but that would be the other big AI type of thing, I think, or UI, I mean, sorry.
I mean, the
UI, of course. The AI, the overlays run by an AI. That would be ridiculous. I'm sorry. Please forgive us.
No, the thing I wanted to highlight here is a lot of the things we're doing are only possible because a lot of people put in a lot of hours to make open source tools to be able to do this at all. OBS, which is the broadcasting software that basically all of us use, or Streamlabs OBS, which is an offshoot of OBS, is an open source tool that you can just download for free and run all of your broadcast stuff. Like I would say probably most streamers are using this or a variation of it. And then on top of that, like, there's sorry, go ahead, Paul.
I was saying, like, it's all that sort of open source mentality where it's like, yeah, we built all this custom stuff, but it's all built on other stuff that other people have built, which is built on other stuff, which is built on other stuff all the way down.
That's the next layer I was going to, is the WebSockets that we've talked about a lot, which is basically just like sending a piece of data to another location and then something happens on that end. So the WebSockets interface that we spoke about, just somebody in the community made a WebSockets interface for OBS. So you've got your open source base OBS, which is also based on a bunch of other stuff, but somebody in the community made this WebSockets thing, and now everybody else is able to communicate directly with OBS and change scenes, turn filters on and off, do whatever you can by manually pressing a button in OBS programmatically. So that's what we're doing with all of those layout tools. We built layout tools specifically for our purpose. And then we send these requests via WebSockets to OBS, which then actually does the visual layout for us. So the open source community in the world is gigantic in all aspects, but like a lot of what you see in the world is built on some kind of open source model where somebody put something out into the world for free and it got traction and people kept building on top of it and creating more things, and eventually you get a giant community around like WordPress or OBS or like Nginx servers for running web servers, all those kinds of things. A lot of them are some kind of open source license. So big props. Thank you very much to all open source developers out there. Pretty much the internet is built on top of your tools, and we appreciate it a lot.
So I have a question from Andre's class specific to that.
Awesome.
Are these tools that we're using available for general use for future development on OBS, or are they for Desert Bus use only?
The tools that we are, like all of the custom stuff that you saw built, is specific enough to our event that it's not really useful for us to release it. There is something that I have been wanting to do and have done some work on, and we've talked about it a lot internally, and it's something I really want to push for next year once we have some more time, is doing a kind of charity event tools in a box, so you don't even need to know how to set up most of this stuff. You can just like decompress this file, throw it on a server somewhere and run 1 or 2 commands, and you have all this kind of functionality. I've wanted to do something like that for years. We've slowly been working on it. Maybe one day we'll actually get something released, but the building bespoke tools for your own event and building tools for anybody's event that is flexible enough to do whatever they want are 2 different things. So making the tools generic enough so that anybody can use them will require a bunch more work, and then also making it stable enough and documentable enough so that if something goes wrong and you don't know how to fix it, you can do you make it self-healing essentially. You can restart this, or writing up documentation to say if you see these things, do these things. So yeah, making something for somebody else where you don't know their use case at all is a lot more work. But it is something that
example
we
of that is Paul. The previous version of the chat monitor, which you're talking about there, was something that Paul made. And I was like, this is great. I love how it looks for Desert Bus. I love that chat's reversed. I love that it's cleaned up. I love that it auto opens things. I'll download it for my own version when I watch streams at home, because like, how hard could it be? It's a chat thing. And I had to go back and try and remember all of, like, I think it was just HTML, and untag and delete all of the Desert Bus specific things, and then try and figure out, oh God, how do I make this usable for literally anything else? And it was so custom made for one very, very, very specific purpose that the amount of time that I put in just to try and make it flexible enough that it worked for me was barely doable. And then, as Paul mentioned, then Twitch changed the back end and it all broke. And I was like, I can't go through that again. I barely got it working the first time. And that was just the chat functionality, and just like a filter to make it look better.
To be fair to Twitch, what they changed, it wasn't even that they changed like their API in the back end. They changed their, like, because they don't have an API, or they didn't have an API in that way for the Twitch. I was actually, on the fly modifying the HTML that they were producing in order to produce the chat. And so it is entirely within their prerogative to change that whenever they want to. That is not something that is like supposed to be used. It just was what was available and what I could do at the time. And I will say that the new chat monitor system that we use, again made by Glodnox, uses a separate WebSocket. Again, that word again, WebSockets, uses a separate API thing that does not rely on the actual, HTML physical layout of the chat, and also has customizable highlighting. So if for whatever strange reason you don't want the Desert Bus chat all the time, you can set it to a different channel or have it highlight things differently.
And that's born out of, hey, the default chat isn't working for us as well as it could.
Yeah.
Let's make something. I see a need for a thing. I'm going to make a thing.
And I struggle a lot with for the same reasons that Ashton was talking about with open source stuff. I fully respect and I love open source as a thing, but it's difficult for me often to as much as I want to release things because they're just in a form that isn't actually useful to anybody else.
Yep.
And taking the time to read, but the chat monitor is one of the things that I was able to successfully release. The end result being that other people were able to take it and modify it. And so while the Glodnox chat thing that I have now doesn't actually share any code, I don't think, with my original thing, the styling of it is actually based on my original thing.
That's why I didn't even know it wasn't you anymore.
The inspiration came from that.
There's one other problem with tech, which is releasing something technology-wise is only half the battle. The majority of the work is maintaining it, keeping it current when either the software it's interacting with changes or the software it's built on changes. There's a lot of work to be done on both sides.
And that's not to say absolutely, if you see a need for something, go play around, experiment. But if you want something to last a really long time, it's probably going to need an amount of maintenance along the way. And the way I like to learn new coding languages or new processes or anything really is to have a project that I am working on where I have an idea of what I want the end product to look like. So like your chat monitor, Paul, you're like the Twitch chat is difficult to read when there's so many people scrolling by. So let's slow it down and make the animation a little smoother. It goes from the bottom up because that's the way they display it. But then you're constantly looking at the bottom of your screen instead of the top of your screen where your camera is. So let's flip it and have it coming down from the top instead. So if you have something where you go, I wonder how difficult it would be to do this, or hey, I could make this better. Absolutely, jump in, screw around for a little while. It's costing you nothing but time, and you probably learn something, even if you don't end up getting to the end goal. So yeah, it's never been easier to create anything really, but with programming nowadays and being able to post anywhere for cheap, or even like here, this is a computer now. This thing, I can run a server and whatever else I want to on this, or run my home automation on something that's smaller than the size of a credit card. Play around. There's things are cheap. they're cheap now. They're easy to jump into. There's giant communities that are happy to help you start or learn new things. Try not to get too bogged down in the console war type things of what's better and what's not. Learn something new. Jump in and play around.
It's as a quick note to illustrate the idea of get it out there and do stuff. The first version of the chat monitor system that I made, partially because what was available in terms of the standards at the time. This was maybe 10 years ago. CSS and JavaScript stuff wasn't as developed as it is now. And also because of my knowledge of things. The best way that I could think of to make it so that to reverse the direction of the chat, so that it was coming from the top rather than coming from the bottom, is the entire chat was rotated 180 degrees. So it was all upside down. And then each individual line was rotated 180 degrees so that they were right side up again. So the entire thing was going backwards, but then each line was actually upside down. So it worked out. So it looked like it was right side
What a
up again.
workaround.
Internet's built on hacks, man. Like,
It was
that's
great.
great.
Then I learned a better way of doing it.
It is wild
But
how all
anyway.
of that works.
Mhm.
Thank you to Ashton and Cory for running us through all of that. Thank you to Serge and Paul for having fantastic questions and also fantastic ancillary stories to it. Thank you to Matt and I for being the straight men going, I don't understand how any of this works, but it sounds cool as heck. I don't know how my stream operates. Don't ask me to fix anything. I couldn't tell you an answer.
A big thank you to Andre for initiating that talk. Thank you so much. I hope your class had fun.
Yeah.
No.
It's always fun to talk about this stuff.